La noche se acabó, pero tengo otra ya contigo. Le doy gracias a Dios, siempre pasándolo contigo en la playa, devorarte como el sol de la mañana, viajando todo el día sin drama, solo tú y yo. Un día bonito lleno de alcohol, tomar un shot para ti, un shot para mí, un shot. Un día bonito lleno de alcohol, tomar un shot para ti, un shot para mí, un shot. Siempre lo pasamos bien lindo, lindo. Un verano contigo lindo, lindo. Me fui de vacaciones, baby, me perdí, buscando el sabor que encontré en ti. Canela con dolor de Bacardi, lo sentí, baby, me tiene desenfocado, viendo doble, bien borracho, demasiado jodido contigo. Pasándolo contigo en la playa, devorarte como el sol de la mañana, viajando todo el día sin drama, tú y yo. Un día bonito lleno de alcohol, tomar un shot para ti, un shot para mí, un shot. Un día bonito lleno de alcohol, tomar un shot para ti, un shot para mí, un shot. Un día bonito, bonito, un día bonito, bonito. Pasándolo contigo en la playa, devorarte como el sol de la mañana, viajando todo el día sin drama, solo tú y yo. Un día bonito lleno de alcohol, tomar un shot para ti, un shot para mí, un shot. Un día bonito lleno de alcohol, tomar un shot para ti, un shot para mí, un shot. Un día bonito lleno de alcohol, tomar un shot para ti, un shot para mí, un shot.
Hello everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy Easter weekend. Hope everyone is doing well. I was meant to do this podcast yesterday, but something just told me it's better to wait a little bit and just get a little bit more information. See if Archewell say anything about what's been going on regarding a certain charity whose funding was pulled and all of the drama happening around that. Thank you for being patient with me, and I am very glad that I waited. And I waited because this is obviously such a heated topic. And I just want to say that there are certain people in the space, certain so-called royal commentators, people who really only came into the space quite recently. I'm not going to name them by name. I think if you've been following me on Twitter, I've kind of like side-eyed shaded them. You can kind of get a clue, or if you just follow the royal space in general, I think you'll get a clue of who I'm talking about, who they've come into the royal space quite recently, and they think they know better than those of us that have been in the space for a lot longer. They jumped to conclusions and to make statements yesterday without really a full picture of what was happening. And these are people that, pride themselves on being unbiased and impartial and being all about media literacy, and they're not Harry and Meghan fans, but they're also not anti-Harry and Meghan. But yesterday, the swiftness in which they moved to be critical without a full story, or to make comment without like really understanding in full what was going on, I think just shows them to be people that are untrustworthy. Obviously, as a Harry and Meghan fan, I'm going to have a certain level of bias, but I am very, very clear about the fact that I'm a fan. I don't sit here and go on about being, impartial and being fair, and we have to think about media literacy, and then that's not my brand. So if that is your brand, then you have to be consistent. One of the individuals who kind of jumped to conclusions and had something to say real quick. She would be absolutely nowhere if it weren't for the fact that the squad raised money for her when she was out here crying tears on these social media streets because she got fired from her job for making royal content. And she in particular, I find, has been quite shady towards Meghan. I remember there was one TikTok that she did. She's really, really big on TikTok, where she accused Meghan of copying her dead mother-in-law, and I think that's actually how she phrased it, Diana, for because Meghan wore a green coat or something like that. She'd been shady. The other one, who talks a lot about media literacy, I kind of started to side-eye her when the whole Sophie Chanduaka thing. I kind of had a back and forth with her on Twitter, and the way that she was responding was just kind of weird. So what I want to say is that just be very careful with some of these new people in this space. They don't necessarily claim to be Harry and Meghan fans, but I just feel that they have just shown themselves in general to be very untrustworthy. And I think yesterday just proved that. There's a lot of like backtracking today, and I need to let's explain this, let's look at this. Okay, but I think this just shows that those who were OGs in this space, people like Meganpedia and people like Tina and Michelle, and there's a whole bunch of others, Sussex set. I just really mourn that they're not in this space anymore, because we were there, or at least like that kind of group were there from the very, very beginning. Also, Rebecca, Duchess of Sussex on Instagram. Oh my God, I'm actually going to read some stuff from her today. She has been so thorough. Shout out to Rebecca. And I just find it really annoying that some of these newbies just seem to think that they know better than us. You don't. And this whole idea of being neutral when it comes to Harry and Meghan. Nobody has ever said that Harry and Meghan are above criticism, but the level of vitriol that is targeted towards Harry and Meghan, there's nothing neutral about that. And in the last 8 years, we have witnessed the most vicious, most vindictive, symbolic annihilation, statistic terrorist character assassination attack in modern press history. Anyone who doesn't take that into account when reporting on the Sussexes is full of crap, in my opinion. Playing the game of neutrality when there's nothing neutral about the constant attacks towards Harry and Meghan. Please. Anyway, let's get into exactly what happened regarding this charity who had their money pulled. And can I just also say that Harry and Meghan are private citizens. They can choose who they give money to, who they don't give money to. I also do want to say, though, before I get into it, because I feel like in the squad, sometimes we are accused of being very cultish and you can't disagree. Nobody's saying that you can't disagree with what Harry and Meghan do respectfully. If you personally feel some kind of way about this, that is fine. If you don't agree with what Harry and Meghan did, even after hearing the facts that I'm about to explain now, that is also fine. I'm not here to dictate how anybody feels. There are many people in the squad over the years who have left the space and left so respectfully. There's no need to add more fuel to the fire of hate that this couple gets. If you disagree with them, you disagree with them. If you want to leave the space, you can leave the space. Just do so respectfully, please. This isn't a cult. So the first thing I want to read is from Rebecca over Duchess of Sussex Instagram, because she just did a phenomenal job. And this is like a play-by-play of like how things went down. So many of you have reached out expressing your confusion and emotions about the Archewell Foundation, asking me to address this, and I'd like to take a moment to share my perspective. I'm reading this, by the way, and I'm reading Rebecca's work because I very much do side with what she says. To understand the situation properly, we need to start with what actually happened. A media outlet called News Nation contacted the Archewell Foundation after noticing a blog post from an organization they donated to. Soon, questions were being asked about Archewell's relationship with one of the organisations previously involved in the Welcome Project, founded by the Sussex Foundation. Following that, Archewell withdrew funding from that specific organisation due to the contents of the blog post. Now, it wasn't actually entirely because of the blog post, by the way. I'm going to get into this. Naturally, this has upset some people. This is not me defending, just me saying it's really important to consider the full picture. And we didn't know the full picture at this point. The Foundation's departure from one organisation with the Welcome Project does not reflect a broader withdrawal from pro-Muslim or pro-Palestinian communities. The project, founded by the Sussex Foundation, remains active across 11 US states, with numerous other organisations with Muslim-led groups still involved. Archewell support has grown since the fall of Kabul, continuing to aid Afghan women through language, employment, and community resources. For example, their financial records show donations to various organizations such as the Om Prakash Foundation, which supports Humanity Crew, an organization that provides mental health care for aid workers operating in both Gaza and Israel. Often mental toll can be neglected. Let's not forget the Hub Kitchen. These women, victims of Grenfell Tower disaster, many of them Muslim, were distinguishedly once likened to extremists by the press to deter her from working with them and undermine their work, but Meghan stood by them and still does. Proceeds from their Together cookbook help them open their kitchen 7 days a week. That support has never wavered. What I still don't understand is why Archewell responded to News Nation, an outlet that regularly publishes defamatory content about the couple. I might get it if it were the BBC, New York Times, CNN, even Fox, but News Nation, there was no traction whatsoever. And from what I've seen from records, the funding to that organization wasn't even regular payments. Now, this I'm going to touch on because I think it's important. It was a bad move from Archewell, I have to say. And Rebecca's right here. It just doesn't make sense why they responded to this particular outlet. Something went very wrong here. And even the tone of the letter and some of the language that was used, very unnecessary. So Rebecca goes on to say, as for letter written by the co-executives of Archewell Foundation, James Holt and Shauna Knepp, while I appreciate the great work that they do, it clearly was a difficult decision, but I do think the use of charged words like propaganda was not necessary. I have to agree here. To be honest with you, when I kind of heard the fuller context of the letter, I almost didn't believe that it was even real, because it just didn't sound like something that an Archewell representative would put out or what we're used to, because they don't speak often, but when they do, it's very carefully chosen words, and using the wording that they did in the letter definitely added fuel to the fire where it didn't need to be. And then also responding to this particular news outlet that were this bootleg news outlet that added more fuel to the fire, because why respond to them? They could have just actually ignored them and just dealt with the issue directly with the charity. This message would still have come landed without it, and I understand how it may have alienated some people, but it is also important to recognize the level of scrutiny that Harry and Meghan face. They quite frankly can't win. Exactly, they quite frankly can't win. You know, I did say soon after this happened that I feel like people expect Harry and Meghan to be Batman and Robin in every situation. It's as simple as that. Followers of this page, you know that. Their former communications executive even said they were treated with a level of media obsession on par with presidents. Everything they do is scrutinized to a T. Just last week, the Daily Mail went to stake out the address of the Azerbaijan. I spoke about this in my last podcast. You know, this is the level of scrutiny that they're under. And then take that with an issue like this, everything just gets more amplified and emotive. So yes, accountability matters, but so does context. Archewell's record shows a continued and genuine commitment to supporting marginalized communities, including Muslims, refugees, and those affected by conflict. They have not backed away, and their work continues, even under relentless criticism. So while I understand why action was taken, but in this climate, extra care is needed. Okay. Now I'm gonna read something that just shows the fuller context of exactly what happened. Just give me a sec, folks. My computer is playing up a bit. Boy. Let's have a look. Okay. Oh yeah, and this I will also read the statement by Archewell. Thank you so much, Church Nelly, for putting it in the chat. I will read the statement from Archewell in a sec. But I will go to I'll go to Rebecca's very well put together explanation. So, what happened? To fully understand the situation, it is important to begin with the facts. A media outlet, News Nation, contacted the Archewell Foundation regarding its association with Janan Najib's Milwaukee Museum's Women's Coalition. Now, I'm not going to read Janan's response to Archewell, but it was very heated. She was obviously very upset. You can go to the Milwaukee Muslims Women's Coalition and read her response if you want to. An organization that had been involved in the Welcome Project, an initiative launched by the Sussexes Foundation in 2023, and continues to thrive in 11 active states, helping refugee Afghans settle. In response, after learning of actions that were not in line with the foundation's core values, the Archewell Foundation announced it would be withdrawing funding from that particular organization. So just to be clear, all of the other organizations in 11 active states are still being funded. So we now turn to the mural, which seems to have been the actual main cause of the reason why it was withdrawn. The funding was withdrawn. The mural. The imagery the Archewell Foundation refers to in the statement is the mural commissioned by Ihsan Attar. Now, it would appear in the original correspondence, Archewell mentioning some kind of blog post. The mural itself was not directly mentioned, but in the follow-up statement that they released, it is referred to. So it could also have just been just a really bad wording in whatever original letter that was sent to this organization. The owner of the building and brother of Janan Najib. So this is the lady who is the executive of this foundation. President of the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition. The mural blends the Star of David with the NAZI symbol. The imagery naturally sparked widespread condemnation for its anti-Semitic nature. Isan Attar defended the symbol, stating that the NAZI symbol, to me, is equivalent to the Star of David. Now, this was via the Milwaukee Journal's this online outlet, this journal. He said this, and he doubled down on this. So Janan Najib not only stood in front of the mural, but also justifies it. I should also point out that before this mural was there, the mural of Breonna Taylor, the African American woman who was gunned down by police, was there. This mural replaced the mural of Breonna Taylor. There are ways to protest without justifying the use of such imagery, and deep down, people know that. There's plenty of pro-Palestinian organizations, movements that do not resort to it. Despite widespread condemnation of its imagery, she has yet to publicly denounce it. So that's with the mural. I mean, to be honest, I don't even know if I want to put the picture up. I don't want to trigger anyone, and I definitely don't want to trigger the YouTube censors, but it is essentially the Star of David, kind of wrapped around the NAZI symbol. And, I think most of us in this space are, just anyone who's a good human being is for the, the freedom, the autonomy of Palestinian people. But we also recognize that we cannot, also condemn Jewish people and, put them all in one boat with what the higher powers are doing. And I think that's where the Archewell Foundation kind of drew a line here, that we do have rules, we do have a certain standard, and we just, we can't have this because they're working with both the Muslim community and the Jewish community. So there has to be a certain level of respectability that is upheld. That's where it seems the line was drawn. And, as an organization, that is their, that is their choice. I'm going to read the statement from Archewell. Just give me a sec. Okay. So the statement from the executive directors at the Archewell Foundation: we show up, do good. Our values are an extension of those of our founders, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Our funding and grant support extends to individuals and organizations of all walks of life with varying political views, cultural beliefs, ideologies, and identifications. We do not discriminate. We believe change comes from building bridges. We welcome all. We do not, however, tolerate any form of hate speech, including hate-fueled symbols, language, or imagery, no matter the community it targets. For us, association with the blending of the Star of David with the NAZI symbol is impossible to accept. Additionally, language that calls for the destruction of others, whether explicitly or implicitly, crosses the line. It is not aligned with our values. We are pro-humanity, pro-love, pro-peace, pro-equality, out of respect for all of our partners and a responsibility to our donors, and in reflecting the values of our principles, we make adjustments to our future funding accordingly. We remain deeply committed to our work with Muslim-led organizations and refugee support programs through the Welcome Project and relief efforts in Gaza. James Holt and Shauna Knepp, executive directors of the Archewell Foundation. And there you have it. For me, with that statement, it's case closed. I want to end this segment of the podcast by reading this. This was from Rebecca, Duchess of Sussex. She said on her Instagram, "The funny thing is, Harry and Meghan could have easily chosen not to do the foundation work at all. They could have lived a quiet, easy life, just focusing on the organizations they are patrons of or ones they have founded. But no, they decided to create a foundation to step up, put themselves out there, and try to make a difference, whether that's by establishing the Parents Network, the annual NAACP Archewell Digital Civil Rights Award, the Welcome Project, or various other initiatives. Service is universal wasn't just a slogan. They used it to respond to being told they had no role in public service anymore since stepping back. And yet here they are still showing up. That's why when people say, would you rather be rich or famous? I always say rich, like those who are wealthy based on investments, etc., but are incognito in the sense the public don't know them. The Sussexes have both, but to a crazier degree. They're famous, they're wealthy, but it's like being constantly under a magnifying glass, even down to the Daily Fail, going to the addresses, the as ever jars just to stake it out. That level of obsession they're dealing with, I wouldn't want have the patience or resilience to keep doing what they do. Agreed. I mean, I'm just here reporting what I hear day to day, and sometimes I lose my patience because it's just like, WTF. There's rarely any grace or nuance given to them. People watch as everything they do gets put to par, and even when their team takes a difficult step of withdrawing funding, it gets criticized. While I agree the mural should have been included in the original letter, too, it's interesting because had they not withdrawn, Ignored News Nation contacted the Archewell Foundation regarding its association with the organization, and the mural surfaced too, while News Nation were investigating. People would have been asking why they didn't act sooner. They still work with many other organizations. It's a no-win situation with them, always, and yet they continue to keep going with purpose. Indeed. And I will continue to be here, and this is still a pro-Sussex space. And your comments, if there are any, I will read a few. I have nothing else to say about this. I have nothing else to say. Rahini, did Archewell put the first letter in the press, or did the charity do so? I believe it was the charity that put the letter in the press. Archewell's letter was not released to the press. It was private correspondence to the charity. Blessing, you said the Archewell Foundation is apolitical. The lady of the charity is political, and the two cannot work together. It was the right decision by Archewell. News Nation is to the right of Fox News. Need I say more? If you know, you know. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're literally like a bootleg, further right version of Fox News now. So why were Archewell even responding to them? That's what I don't understand. It's so strange. Like, major oversight. Major oversight. Archewell needs to protect their 501 C3 non-profit status. Cannot be linked to this kind of behavior. Sussexes are under too much scrutiny. Indeed. Indeed. Benjamin, you said, I believe they waited to clarify a bit because they were testing out the audience reception. They always planned to be fair, but in that wait time, people ran prematurely with their own conclusion. Yeah, unfortunately. And the unfortunate thing is now you've got all these headlines painting it as if, you know, Harry and Meghan pulled their funding because in that, you know, simply because of that lady's blog post and all the headlines that have come out of that. And unfortunately, the negative headlines always outweigh the corrections and the truth. Harleen Brown, you said they have done more for people than others on the Shutter Island. I will continue to support the Sussexes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Rahini, you said, while I do not agree with the way Archewell responded, but I would have liked that I was restructuring or something. I'm suspicious of the charity for bringing it to the press. Well, I think even if she hadn't gone directly to the press, the fact that she released the statement, it would have, you know, it would have made it into the press. But I think on her part, it created a situation where the narrative got twisted. And, you know, with these charities, when you agree to take money, you also agree to certain rules. And if you don't stick to those rules, then the funding can easily get pulled. Okay. Yeah, next thing. Let's move on from this. All right, next thing. Sophie Chanduaka. Sophie, where are you? Are you listening in the clouds, Sophie? Because you've been real silent. Did Harry send his lawyers? Did they send the letters? Did you get a cease and desist from David? What's been going on with you, Sophie? You've been quiet as a mouse since your media tour, where you were telling everyone who would listen nonsense. So pretty much as soon as Sophie's lies began to fall apart, she started, rewording her wiki. She started deleting her social media. Her associates started deleting their social media. And now the biotech company that she was the director of, Nardi Life Sciences, has disappeared and vanished from the internet. I said when this website and this company was first discovered, when the Sussex Squad were doing their, private investigations, they're investigatoring on these internet streets, that we should keep an eye on this company. Do you not remember me saying that? And I also mentioned that these biotech companies have become big money-making schemes for founders that have minimal to no experience in the sciences, but they can talk the talk. Or maybe they do have some experience, but like her brother, I believe, is a doctor. Maybe they do have some experience, but they're not as experienced in the field, or what they're saying that they can do isn't actually possible. A good example of this would be Elizabeth Theranos. Probably the top example of this would be, Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos. There was also another company, I forget the name, but they basically falsely claimed that they could do COVID testing, and then they ended up getting fined like 30 million or something. This was a company that was started during the pandemic, and they took tens of millions. And the founder of this company, by the way, the reason I bring this up particularly because the founder of that company is currently running around Bali, living his wildest dreams. Came to my mind because I was in Bali not too long ago. So these companies have become these big money-making machines. And at the end of the day, when those investors sign off that money, they sign it off with a risk that the money is going to be lost. And it actually can be quite difficult to sue the founders to get your money back. So people they're running wild with these biotech companies, just taking money from people. And that was the first thing that came to my mind when I heard that she owned this biotech company. Can somebody please go and find whatever financial records? Now, she claims that they have raised almost 50 million or something like that. But given Sophie Chanduaka's history, I don't know if that's true. And if that is true, where has the money gone? Now that the website has disappeared, the people that were working for the company, because there were many people on that board, where have they gone? If I'm a journalist right now, I'm trying to look for anybody else who was on this board. There was, and it's also very fishy that her brother was on that board, but there was also this Miss Sarah Eason, who was also hired as a consultant for Sentebale, a paid consultant for Sentebale, and she deleted some of her social media as well. Sophie also locked her posts on LinkedIn. She's gone quiet as a mouse after causing all of that trouble in the media for Harry and basically just destroying Sentebale. I don't know what's happening with Sentebale right now. I don't know if they've got access to any resources. I'm sure in the background, Harry is probably trying his best. Prince Ziso has said nothing. I can only assume that he's probably being advised to say nothing. I think it would help if he said something, but I'm not going to put that pressure But that website has disappeared. So yet another business linked to this woman that is drowned. There's also the, what was it, the Black British Award, something like that. That's tens of thousands in debt. I think a lot beyond Sentebale is going to come out about this woman. I think she is in big trouble. Also, regarding Sentebale, another member of the board stepped down. This Margaret Ikpo. This is the one who was at Charles's garden party. Coincidence or conspiracy, you decide. An East Yorkshire-based GP was named a trustee last month following the mass resignation of Prince Harry and the board. However, she stepped down earlier this month in the wake of intense scrutiny prompted by the bitter boardroom row. She has chosen to step down out of respect for her family and other professional commitments. So she thought that it was respectable to join this board in the first place. With everything that was going on and everything that was coming out, she would have known at least some of what was going on behind the scenes and why the other board trustees stepped down. She thought it was respectable to step into that space. A charity basically being taken over in a hostile way, but now she wants to step back out of respect for her family and other professional commitments. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. She doesn't want the heat. She does not want to be involved in all of this mess. And anybody with half a brain cell would have never involved themselves in the first place. When the whole board and the charity's lead patrons and founders step down. You thought that it was a good idea to step in. You had no respect for the other trustees and for Harry and Prince Iso. Now there are still some people still there. These three on the screen, including Ian Rowlandson, who was sitting next to Sophie when she gave that ridiculous Sky News interview. Ian's waiting for his money. He wants to buy himself a third Spanish home in the Costa del Sol. He wants his money. The greed. The audacity. Thank you so much to Olive Perry for the super sticker, much appreciated. And also to Carleen Brown. Happy Easter to both of you. Thank you for the donations, much appreciated. Buy me a coffee link in the comment section if you want to donate via Buy Me a Coffee. Just a reminder, so if there's anybody who's new here, YouTube takes 30% of everything that you donate. So if you don't want to give money to YouTube, and we don't want to give money to YouTube, donate. You can either donate through Buy Me a Coffee or PayPal. Benjamin, do you think Williams is still behind it? I don't want to say that he is because I don't know. I've said from the beginning that I just think it's fishy that a William associate has been caught up in all of this. It's fishy. I'm not going to say that William is because I don't. That would be. Well, I don't know. So that would be false information if I said that he is. But we all know that that is just like coincidence or conspiracy. You decide. I think we'll find out. I think maybe if Ian finds himself in trouble, he might start quacking like a duck, or someone on that board might start quacking like a duck. Anyone heard an update from the Charity Commission? No. And we probably won't for a few months. Joan, she thought that she could take Harry down and it backfired spectacularly. Indeed. How do you start just using charity money willy-nilly and you think that you're going to get away with it? But I think if she was with a lower profile charity, she probably would, to be honest. She probably would. Yeah, Benjamin. And Harry and Meghan, they donate their time to these causes. It's the most precious resource we have. Yeah, this is not going to end nicely for Sophie and Ian in particular. Because I also just don't understand how you can go to a charity that is meant to aid orphans and you happily take that amount of money. Okay, next thing. Oh, Harry and actually, before I move on to that, yeah, there was this. Just when you think it's not going to get any more ridiculous, there was someone who was falsely claiming to be Prince Yusuf's brother. He has no connection to the charity whatsoever, but of course the media ran with it, including the Telegraph, who had to issue a correction. The article previously reported that Chief Koabane Thiko is the brother of Prince Issa of Lesotho. This was incorrect. Chief Thiko is the chief whip of Lesotho Senate and a senior and influential member of the College of Chiefs and the royal family. We're happy to correct the record. If you're happy to correct the record, then it should be a new headline. The Telegraph got it wrong. This is the truth. That's how you correct the record, not with a small correction at the bottom of an article. Apology should be as loud as the disrespect. The correction should be as bold as the misinformation. Anyway, Harry, the tabloid dragon slayer, back to court along with 6 other claimants for a further hearing in claims against Associated Newspapers Limited. This is the Daily Fail and Jonathan Rothermere. May 6th to 7th. I don't know if Harry's gonna be there. But the other claimants include Baroness Lawrence of Clarendon, OBE. Oh, I believe this is Stephen Lawrence's mother. The young black teen who was murdered, and there was the whole controversy with the way the police mishandled the case. Elizabeth Hurley, actress Elizabeth Hurley, Sir Elton John, David Furnish, his partner, Simon Hughes, and Sadie Frost, who I believe is an actress. So good on them for taking it all the way to the end. And for Harry also, he slayed Rupert Murdoch. Now it's time for now it's Jonathan Rothermere's turn. Rothermere's next. In a lot more positive news, I didn't get to report it on the day it was announced. Yes, Meghan will be at the Times 100 Summit in New York. She will speak. She'll be appearing in her role as the founder of As Ever, her new lifestyle brand. While the exact details of her remarks aren't in the release, she's expected to be one of the major voices among global leaders, like the CEO of Netflix, speaking on the day. And Harry and Meghan, since leaving the royal fold, have been featured in Times. I don't even know how many times. They've been featured in Times. I don't know how many times. They have posed for them. Remember those epic photos in the green? Yeah. They're probably just going to be in Times every single year for the next decade. I think one day Meghan will probably make like Times Person of the Year at some point. Very likely. Mind you, Times Person of the Year is not always sometimes it is a bad person. They just pick who's been the most influential. And I think Meghan has the potential to be one of those people who's picked for good reasons and just be, I mean, in terms of media coverage, she could already be Times Person of the Year, to be honest. Because who gets the level of media coverage outside of literal presidents, like outside of like Trump, basically. Outside of Trump, like what celebrity gets the level of coverage that Harry and Meghan do? Maybe Taylor Swift, Beyonce, I guess. I don't know. And to the point where everything they do is just under a microscope. Crazy level of fame and influence, but she's doing good things with it, both for others and for herself. And I believe that As Ever has the potential to be $1 billion IPO brand. I do. And I also think we are one Duchess Meghan speech away from a TED Talk. I believe we're getting a TED Talk. What she'll talk about, I don't know, but I'm waiting for it. Denise, William is not that intelligent enough to do this. Yeah, I mean, I think that William believes that he is some kind of evil genius, but the way he keeps bringing out Jason Knopf out of the cave he lives in proves that he's really not that smart. So I think you might be right, Denise. I don't know if William would be that cunning, and it could just be a coincidence, and that Ian saw an opportunity to money grab. It could just also be that, but it makes William look bad. Already for Squiddy Hooks, tomorrow is today and tomorrow are the last 2 days of Squiddy Hooks double upsell. Get your order. Yes, please do. There's new colors as well for hats. And I still have to, at least I think I've got the addresses of the people that were owed a free Squiddy Hooks. I've got your addresses. We just need to put the orders through. I'll try and get around to that ASAP. I've just had so much on my plate. Also interesting, Wells family not going to Easter gathering, which is surprising because in terms of just free, easy press, this is the easiest thing for them to do. And they've decided not to do it this year. Kate gets to put on a coat dress and we get nice, smiling, happy pictures of the family. Sweet, easy press. They decided not to do it. That definitely raised some eyebrows. Charles and Camilla were very much there, giggling away. Oh, I cannot believe that we got to a situation where there was an agreement between the palace and the press to call Camilla Queen Camilla. And I don't think anyone in mainstream press actually deviates from that or has tried to push against that. Oh, I almost forgot to mention about Jason Knopf. The former CEO of the Royal Foundation and ex-communication secretary at Kensington Palace has been appointed chief executive of Prince William's Earthshot Prize. Hannah Jones, who's stepping down after 4 years, will continue to provide KP with strategic advice. Well, you know what? I love it for William. If he would rather someone who just does his bidding, no matter how incompetent, to be by his side, then fine. I love it. I love what William does for himself. see where this goes. I don't think it'll go anywhere decent. Those of you who listen to Baron's podcast, I think you've already heard the audio or seen the footage, of Kate walking through the forest and Kate talking about, how it's a spiritual experience. I watched the video. I'm not going to play the video or play the audio here, but her words do not match her as a person. Like, this is clearly a very desperate attempt to, I guess, maybe seem relatable, seem cool. I don't believe that a woman who spent her entire early womanhood chasing a man to get a crown walks through the forest and feels like it's a spiritual and uplifting experience. I just don't. There's nothing about Kate that screams nature girly unless it's shooting and hunting. And she probably only got into that because she wanted to be in the Aristo set. Okay. Oh, and one just final thing. Meghan's team are checking DMs and messages and reposting them. Also and retweeting, as ever, unboxings and products, pictures from just ordinary people. So they are seeing and hearing what you're posting. So if you got your as ever stuff, do post it. And also Meghan added an Easter edit to her affiliate link page. I think is it Shop Me? Shop Me, Style Me. So if you want to check out what she's got on her Easter edit, I absolutely love this. I'm still waiting for her to add one to Harry. Give the men's style, please. Why not? All right. I think that's all. Yeah, we addressed the elephant in the room. Yeah. And yeah, I think we can just swiftly move on now. It's Easter weekend. We'll have another podcast from Meghan on Tuesday with another female founder. I'm pretty sure they're working on an as ever restock, so it won't be too long probably before we can get that. And yeah, Times speech from Meghan. Oh, Harry will be back at the Aviation Awards. So we're there last year with Bezos and Lauren Sanchez and aviation community last year. So he'll be going back again this year. I'm assuming this will be like a regular event that they stop by now every year. What else have we got coming up? Yeah, I think that's what's coming up in the immediate. At least the good stuff to look forward to. God knows there's always a piece of drama just around the corner. Oh. But we try to focus on the negative. We're in the era of joy. I keep reminding myself we're in the era of joy. Lottie, thank you so much for the super sticker. Much appreciated. Yes, I stand with Harry and Meghan. Absolutely, I stand with Harry and Meghan. But he said, I wish Meghan would get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. This has come up in a podcast before. And didn't someone say that the fans have to like fundraise through a fan club or something like that? I mean, we could do that easily. It's just whether or not but I'm assuming also, the PR people would have to sign off for it, and Meghan would have to actually sign off for it that she wants one. So I mean, we could fundraise very easily. It's whether or not she actually wants one. Like, do you think Meghan wants a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? Elfas, as ever, is still very new, and post tariff is another world. I'm very excited for With Love Meghan. Oh yes, and also season 2 of With Love Meghan. Well, Meghan also said that all of the products are made in the USA. So tariffs aren't affecting them at the moment. Yeah, please keep replaying Meghan's podcast if you enjoyed it the first time. Replay it again. Yeah, I believe that Meghan will be Person of the Year at some point. Like for her, I think she will get it for her level of influence because she's just proven it, more than proven it. For her level of influence, her growing business, and her profile. Lottie, you said, do you think he would ever be king? I do actually think that we will see William as king. It's just what his kingship is going to look like. That's where it gets interesting. That's where it's really going to get interesting. William will be king, but I get the feeling that William will be the last king. That yeah, it's going to be William who's the last king, not Charles. I think that William will want a massive king's level, massive king's level coronation, but there will be arguments and disagreements, possibly with government and with the British public, over whether or not that should happen. And if William is silly enough to have a super king size coronation, that is going to be the beginning of the downfall. I mean, the downfall is it's happening right now. But that will be the final nail in the coffin. It costs 70K to get a star. Oh, we can fundraise that. I'm totally up for fundraising for Meghan to get a star. It's whether or not Meghan actually wants a star. Yeah, I mean, for tariffs, if everything is being made in the US so far, she'll be fine with as ever. I think it could be, if other countries retaliate, if they're shipping it out, that's where maybe you'd start to get an issue. But also, it also depends on what else is she actually planning on adding to the line. Are there components that are made outside of the US, like the bottles and stuff like that? But so far, no issues. William will be king, but he will destroy the monarchy. Yeah, yeah. He will be king. It's what his kingship looks like. Sean Jones, the final nail will be when he attempts to take the Sussex titles. It seems like from the leaks that we're getting, that is something that William has in his sights. And I say, go ahead and do it. Whatever William wants for himself, I want for him. If he wants to play that game and try to take the Sussex's title, let him. You will hear no arguments from me. He wants a kingship that is full of drama. So do I. Let him do it. See how that plays out. Even Charles, for all his wrongdoings, is not that stupid. Because he knows what that will result in. And he's certainly if anything, Charles doesn't want to give government an itch on their back right now. Just sit there and be king. Because all you want to start all that parliamentary process. The government right now, I believe, actually just tolerates the monarchy. They're tolerated. So if William wants to start poking the bear, go right ahead, sir. I hope William does everything that he wants to do. Whatever William wants, I want for him. Lady, you said I would not yet want a star. People have been known to vandalize stars to people they don't like. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Meghan's bigger than a Hollywood star. So not something we need desperately. Benjamin, you said the press will not be as accommodating to William as they were to his lousy father. Yeah. Yeah. I believe that there will be a point where the invisible contract truly breaks. Like there will be something that triggers it. Like the same way with Diana, Charles and Camilla. Like at a certain point, the contract broke and they started to talk about the affair. Something triggered that. Nelly, there is a prophecy about the British royals that they will be abolished when William becomes king due to is that meant to be feud between him and Harry getting worse and his laziness will kill the monarchy. Well, that feud is one-sided. First of all, I think that William's battle with himself is what's going to end the monarchy. But as far as this battle with Harry and Meghan, it's one-sided. He's digging the grave for himself. And what's William going to do? Be showing up to football matches? He went to yet another football match recently. Maybe he should just get into football coaching. It pays pretty well. Heck, Aston Villa fans know him pretty well at this point, going to so many football matches. He'll probably enjoy that more than being king. Hey, Dorothy Ross, we're actually just wrapping up. But you can join the replay, gang. Lovely to see you. Okay. I think I'm going to end this, yeah. The last 48 hours has been absolutely exhausting. Glad to see the back of it. And will I see you tomorrow? Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going somewhere, but the noise seems to have settled for now. So I don't see there'll be too much to talk about tomorrow. But hey, you never know in this space. You just never know. I shouldn't speak too soon. Well, if anything does happen, I hope it's positive, for goodness sake. I want joy. All right, I'm not going to play the outro music, folks. Thank you so much. Ciao.